The outcast begins with the scene of a drunken man walking in the woods. He complained about the boring condition of his village, so he wanted to move to a big city. Because he was too drunk, he unknowingly stopped at a village cemetery. He was seen resting and sitting in one of the tombs for a while. After that, his eyes turned to someone digging a grave, but strangely, all the tombstones at the cemetery fell in succession. The following day, a young woman named Fu Haohao was heading to the village in a local resident's vehicle. She asked to be stopped in front of a mountain gate. Meanwhile, there was an uproar at the village cemetery because some of the cemeteries there seemed to be in disarray. The case was handled by a police inspector named Song. Shortly after, the policeman saw a tomb named Zhang Shilan. The tomb looks neat even though the body has disappeared. Song said that if the thieves targeted Zhang Shilan's grave, then this case would not be an ordinary grave excavation case. Song recalled that Zhang Shilan's grandson, Zhang Chulan, who was studying in the city, called him once. On the call, Chulan said that he would visit Zhang Shilan's grave during this year's college vacation. When Song wanted to call Chulan, Fu Haohao, who is in disguise, suddenly came to the police. She said that she was the granddaughter of Zhang Shilan. Song doubted her words because he knew that Zhang Shilan only had a grandson. But she tries to convince Song by giving him her identity, saying her name is Zhang Baobao. When Chulan arrived in his village, he immediately met Song at the police station. Chulan looked surprised when he heard the news that Zhang Shilan's body had been stolen by someone, and also came a woman named Zhang Baobao who claimed to be Zhang Shilan's granddaughter. Song then recounted all the words of Zhang Baobao. She told him that when Chulan was 7 years old, Zhang Shilan had died. Then, his father, Zhang Yude, brought Chulan to an orphanage. After that, his father disappeared without news. She said that she was born to a different mother from Chulan, but their father was Yude. After that, Chulan said goodbye to going to Zhang Shilan's grave even though it was almost night. Arriving at the cemetery, Chulan accidentally saw someone digging a grave. When he was about to take a picture, the person looked, and it turned out that she was Haohao who claimed to be Zhang Baobao. When Chulan was caught by Haohao, he immediately ran away from the village cemetery. Although Chulan felt that he had run very far, Haohao could find his whereabouts and then beat him unconscious. When Chulan woke up, he was terrified when he saw Haohao was cutting the undead or jiangshi in front of him with a knife. She dragged Chulan, threw him in a grave pit, and said she would bury him because he had meddled in her business. Chulan recalled Song's words until he finally thought that Haohao was his sister named Zhang Baobao. When Chulan called her Baobao, she said that she was not Baobao. Even the ID she showed to the police yesterday was a fake identity. Just as Haohao was about to bury Chulan, suddenly, the jiangshi rose from the grave. But she could easily cut the bodies of the jiangshi with her knife. After that, she left Chulan with the remaining jiangshi. Outside the cemetery, a man named Chou Soran was waiting for Haohao's arrival. When she arrived before Chou Soran, Haohao said that Zhang Shilan's body had been stolen by someone, and she had also left Zhang Shilan's grandson in the grave pit with the remaining jiangshi. Suddenly, there is a flash of lightning from the direction of the tomb whose light reaches the sky. Haohao and Chou Soran returned to the cemetery. They saw that the jiangshis had been scorched while Chulan was no longer there. Chou Soran discovers Chulan's ID that fell on the ground and says that Haohao should study at the same place as Chulan. Chou Soran then easily gave Haohao a new fake identity. Meanwhile, in a building, a man named Ryu is receiving a call from a woman. Ryu told a woman named Natsuka who was in front of him that the woman who had called him earlier had found Zhang Shilan's body and would bring it before them. The next day, Chulan was already seen at his campus. He immediately deleted Haohao's photo from his cell phone and forgot about the strange incident last night. When Chulan accidentally turned to his side, he was surprised by the presence of Haohao who was sitting beside him with a straight face. After class ended, Chulan asked Haohao to speak behind the campus building. He asks who she really is. Haohao answered innocently that she had not memorized her new identity. She then read her ID that her current name was Zhang Haohao and she was from Taiwan. Chou Soran just changed the surname on her new identity to Zhang. Chulan, who feels annoyed and confused, asks her not to appear in front of him again. Shortly after, Haohao called Chou Soran in front of Chulan and asked if she could do anything to Chulan. After getting approval from Chou Soran, Haohao wants Chulan to be her servant. She then asked Chulan to bring out the power he was hiding. Haohao said that she knew Chulan had power from the moment they met. She purposely buried and left him with jiangshi for him to bring out his power at that time. After that, Haohao attacked Chulan so that he would bring out his power. Chulan remembered Zhang Shilan's message that he should not use that power carelessly. He remembers his childhood when his father was angry with him because he always used his strength to fight with other kids. But his grandfather always defended him. Even Zhang Shilan was willing to move houses to other villages whenever Chulan showed his strength because that power should be hidden from others. Chulan asked Zhang Shilan why they had to have hereditary power and keep it a secret from everyone. Zhang Shilan replied that Yude would explain everything to him when he grew up. Chulan told Zhang Shilan that he hated his father, who always beat him. Hearing Chulan's confession, Zhang Shilan immediately attacked Yude from a distance and scolded him. At that time, Chulan asked Zhang Shilan what's the reason for him to learn science if he could not use it. Zhang Shilan replied that he actually wanted him to be able to live a normal life like other children without having the power. Still, the Zhang family had learned that power for generations and must continue to pass it on. Because at that time, if someone had the power, it would be feared by others, so their family inherited the knowledge. Chulan asks when he is allowed to use his power, and his grandfather says when he began to rely on that power. Chulan, who finished remembering his memories, immediately used his power called King Ku. Hao was excited to continue attacking Chulan, so he issued his strength. It is known that King Ku's strength can be used to defend and attack, making it difficult for his opponent. At the beginning of the fight, Chulan easily defeated Hao using King Ku. On the other hand, Ryu was examining Zhang Shilan's corpse. He tried to absorb the power from the corpse but to no avail. The two Jiangshis who brought the corpses demanded a promise from Ryu. If they succeeded in bringing Zhang Shilan's corpse, they could both become members of the Zensei organization. But Ryu didn't keep his promise because Zhang Shilan's corpse was of little use to him. He then gave the two Jiangshi a new mission to bring Chulan before him, alive or dead. On the other hand, Chulan, who was still fighting against Hao, ended up losing. She then tore all of Chulan's clothes naked because the innocent Hao didn't know it was wrong. According to the agreement, because Hao won, so from now on, Chulan must be her servant. If he refuses, then she will spread all of his secrets. After that, she gave him a cell phone, then she left, leaving him naked and alone behind the campus building. Arriving at the hostel, Chulan gets a cell phone notification that there is one friend request. It turned out that the request was from a woman named Ryu Ken, who made him feel very happy, and he immediately started chatting with her. She invites him to meet tomorrow night. The next day, when he arrived at the campus, Hao asked Chulan to meet someone later that evening. But at night, Chulan prefers to meet with Ken and turn off his cell phone. He waited for her on the side of the road, and not long after that, Ken came and asked him to have dinner. While Hao was with Jo-san in the car, she was seen calling Chulan's cell phone but couldn't connect. Eventually, Hao tracked down Chulan's cell phone using the tracking device their organization had pre-installed. After being tracked down, they both went to where he was. Meanwhile, Chulan is still with Ken at the restaurant for dinner. He asked her why he had never seen her even though they were on the same campus. She replies that she rarely goes out of class but she has been watching him for a long time. After dinner, Ken invites Chulan to go to her apartment because they can't return to the dormitory. After all, it's late. Arriving at her apartment, the two of them were seen making out. But secretly, Ken put poison into Chulan's body. When she wanted to have intercourse with him, it turned out that on Chulan's genitals, there was a seal called Chogongsa that could detect whether a girl was sincere with him or not. Chulan immediately asked who Ken really was and what she meant by doing all this. It turns out that she is the woman assigned to catch him by Ryu and she can also control Jiangshi. Chulan was angry but he couldn't use his King Ku power because Ken had injected poison into his body at the back of his neck. Finally, they managed to catch Chulan. On the other hand, Hao, who was on her way, kept looking at her tracking device to detect Chulan's whereabouts. When Hao saw Chulan heading towards the city's outskirts rapidly, she became suspicious of what was up with him. Jo-san said that Zensei organization recently appeared in Z City, and possibly they kidnapped Chulan. After that, Chulan was brought by Ken to a place like a forest. The members of the Zensei organization were already waiting for him there. Finally, Ken is accepted into their organization because she managed to bring Chulan. Ryu then introduced himself to Chulan, who was tied up. He immediately used his power to read Chulan's mind because he was looking for an inheritance from Zhang Shilan through Chulan's memories and Zhang Shilan's corpse. Luckily, Jo-san and Hao soon arrived at the place. Ken immediately raised the Jiangshi to fight them. Jo-san, who has the power to fly objects, attacked the Jiangshi from a distance and was assisted by Hao, who was an expert in close combat and attacked them with her knife. Hao began to attack and fight with Natsuka, but she countered with a stronger attack. Jo-san told Hao not to underestimate Natsuka because she is one of the 4 Zensei mages with the nickname the Bone Scraper. When Natsuka and her group are caught off guard, Jo-san invites another man named Saru who has the power to attack from underground and manages to bring Chulan to Jo-san. Meanwhile, Hao looks very angry at Chulan because he turned off his cell phone. She stabbed at the back of Chulan's neck to remove the worm that Ken had inserted into his body. It turned out that Jo-san had planned everything very carefully. He had brought all the members of his organization to capture the Zensei members there. After that, the Zensei members fled because they realized their position was pressed, and they were outnumbered to fight Jo-san and his members. Hao asks Chulan why he is not happy when they save him. He answered why bad luck always happens to him, even though Zhang Xilan had told him that when a lot of bad luck befalls, good things will come. Hao Hao said he should not worry because bad luck doesn't always end badly. Chulan was happy that Hao Hao's words could cheer him up a little, but she continued to say that all the bad luck that happened to him was because he was so stupid. Meanwhile, Ryu and Ken, who were escaping by car, were chased by two men from Joseon's organization. Suddenly, there was a man member of Joseon who blocked their car, but they hit it. On the other hand, a man shoots at the car with an energy ball weapon until he manages to throw Ken out of the car. Ken immediately asked Ryu for help, but he didn't care. Because he didn't really think of her as a member of his organization, then she fell. The next day Hao Hao picks up Chulan from his dorm. She will invite him to come to her organization. It turned out that the Hao Hao organization was an express shipping company. The two of them entered the place and Joseon came to meet them. Joseon said all the workers here are called foreigners because they have the power of the Zhang family. Not all strong people can be called foreigners. That title is only for people who can control ki only. Zhou said that the king coup used by Chulan wasn't an inheritance but a technique acquired by learning. Zhou explains that foreigners are divided into inherited and learned powers. Chulan then asked Joseon about Zensei organization, which seemed hostile to Joseon's express expedition organization. Joseon replies that all foreigners have a rule that must be obeyed, not to show their power in public. Still, the Zensei organization doesn't obey that rule. After that, Chulan is invited to meet Ken, who they have captured. Joseon finds out that Ken is from the Ryu family because her family told him that Ken has disappeared from the house. Ryu's family asks Joseon's organization for help in finding Ken. When Joseon discovered why Ken had deliberately run away from her house just to join Zensei, he was furious. Even she doesn't know the background and purpose of the Zensei organization. Ken replied that it was none of their business. She says that Joseon's organization looks arrogant and looks like it's just finding fault with foreigners. She alleges that Zhou's organization is financed by the government, so they can do whatever they want. Zhou says Ken's accusations are untrue because they only act when strangers are causing trouble. He asks her to reveal the purpose of the Zensei organization to target the Zhang family. But Ken looks indifferent and seems to cover everything. Joseon said that he found it strange because she comes from the Ryu family, which is quite famous among foreigners. Why would she want to join Zensei and even protect them? Hearing Joseon's words, Ken replied that Ryu's family, which he considered famous, made her suffer a lot. Because since childhood, she has been forced to train and inherit Jiangxi's controlling power. Until Ken had to always be in her house for 14 years just to practice and only make friends with the Jiangxi. If she refuses to train, then she will be beaten, and she can't escape because she is always locked up and has no human friends. Even if she runs away, she doesn't know where to go. Ken is only allowed to come out when she has mastered all the spells of her power. That's why she trains hard to master everything so that she can get out of her house, and all that she could achieve when she was 15 years old. At that time, Ken was very happy because she could leave her house. But Ken rebelled when she had to live like an ordinary human because she could not use her powers. She wonders why, for 14 years of training and being locked up, she can't use her powers when everything has been mastered. Ken wants to join Zensei organization because they have no rules, and she doesn't care about the organizational background and goals. Soon, a man named Joseon came. He says if Joseon can't face a little girl that he will face her. When Ken still didn't want to explain about Zensei organization, Joseon immediately slapped her until she fell. Joseon tried to stop Joseon but he ignored it and kept kicking Ken's body. He said if she remained silent, then he would make her disabled. Chulan tried to stop Joseon by using his king coup. He asks Joseon for leniency for Ken because he is Ken's victim. She had stolen his grandfather's body. Joseon said he would consider it, but those words made Joseon angry that the three of them ended up fighting. When Ken heard Chulan's words, she melted and wanted to divulge Zensei's intentions. Ken then said that dozens of Zensei fighters lost against one very strong man in the past. Since then, Zensei organization has been looking for that person's whereabouts. They were looking for him, not for revenge, but they felt attracted by that person's power. It turned out that the man who defeated the Zensei fighters was Zhang Xilan. When he was young, he had a technique called Ki Taigen. Hearing Ken's story, Joseon felt very interested in Chulan, who was the inheritor of the Ki Taigen technique. But Chulan said that he had never been taught the technique. So far, he had only learned King Ku from Zhang Xilan, so the Zensei members were wrong if they wanted to catch him. Shortly after, the voice of a man screaming came at the sight of Hao Hao from inside a prison. That man was Saru, who on the previous day saved Chulan from Zensei. He turned like that because he was hit by Natsuka's punch that could control one's lust until that person went crazy. That's why Joseon forbade Hao Hao to fight against Natsuka. Luckily, the blows received by Saru were not too severe, and he could still be healed. After that, Chou Soran invites Chulan to talk in the office. Chou Soran explains that their organization's job is to help foreigners and stop those who interfere with ordinary people. He also invites Chulan to join their organization, but Chulan immediately rejects the offer because he thinks that their job is very dangerous. Chou Soran then offers Chulan a high fee, but he still refuses. He asked what the high pay would be if he died and couldn't enjoy the money. Joyan then told how to persuade Chulan to join them. How, without further ado, immediately hit Chulan in the face until he fell and gave up. He then finally joined them. It turned out that Joyan had taught how to act so brutally. He gave her an entry form, saying that Chulan is Chou Soran's responsibility. That night when Chulan returned to the dormitory, he suddenly heard someone knocking on his room's door. When he peeked and opened the door, he didn't see anyone there. Then a strange creature came down from above to catch and bring him before two women in the forest. Arriving in the forest, Chulan prepares to attack them because he thinks they are members of the Zensei organization, but the two women denied it. Meanwhile, Chou Soran and Joyan were talking at Chou Soran's office. Chou Soran asked why Joyan was interested in recruiting Chulan. Joyan replied because he felt attracted to the people around Chulan, including the Zensei organization, who would continue to pursue him. Not only Zensei, but many foreigners will come to Chulan. Therefore, Joyan believes that Chulan can bring change to the lives of foreigners. Currently, Chulan is wanted by many foreigners because the Zensei members have spread rumors that he is the inheritor of the Tengekai technique. On the other hand, the two women will bring Chulan before their leader. After that, three men came, one in white and two in black. They said that Chulan should not be brought by the two women because they also wanted him to be brought before their leader. One of the women said their current position was desperate because the man in white was no ordinary stranger and they couldn't fight him. Chulan refuses all of them and tries to fight back. However, the two men in black gave off a technique similar to King Ku's. Meanwhile, Chou Soran said that it seemed that Zhang Xilan had been hiding his identity as a great fighter all along. In addition, the King Ku technique taught to Chulan was also very different from the Tengekai technique that the Zensei organization was looking for. But the King Ku's techniques are similar to those of the Tenchifu and Tengekai organizations. On the other hand, Hao woke up from her sleep because she felt a very strong killing aura near her dormitory. Then, a woman from Tengekai came and asked her to tell Chou Soran that they also wanted Chulan. Hao indifferently didn't respond to the woman and returned to her dormitory. The woman said that from now on, it was Tengekai who would monitor the movements of strangers in the city. Chou Soran's organization is asked not to interfere in their affairs. Hao still didn't care about the woman until the woman was annoyed and then attacked her and hit Hao's face until there was a short fight between them. After that, the woman introduced herself and said that her name was Fu Sayin. Suddenly, there was an explosion that distracted Hao and Sayin. It turns out that the explosion came from Chulan's fight against two men in black. Chulan seems to be able to keep up with them even though he is dealing with two men at once. Seeing this, the man in white named Regyoku intervened to fight Chulan. When Chulan attacks Regyoku, his strength is unable to touch it. Even he can defeat Chulan with just one hit. Chulan got up again and tried to attack Regyoku even though he couldn't touch him. Regyoku said that Chulan had stolen King Ku's technique from Tenchifu and tainted it with his lowly abilities. He again attacks Chulan and invites his members to leave because they don't need to bring the weak Chulan. Hearing Regyoku's words, Chulan immediately got up again, but everyone who was there asked him to stop fighting Regyoku. Unfortunately, Chulan still challenged Regyoku even though he said he would make Chulan paralyzed. Hao said that Chulan should keep fighting Regyoku with his head raised and not heed what Regyoku said. Sayan also came to meet the two female members. Finally, Chulan began to bring out his true power to fight Regyoku. Hao said that was the technique Chulan used when scorching the entire Jiangxi in the village cemetery. Chulan attacks Regyoku with the Raihao technique. They fought in the air and Chulan was seen attacking Regyoku repeatedly to break through his King Ku defense. The two men in black said that Raihao was an advanced technique of King Ku and was not easy to master. Even in the Tenchifu organization, only a man named Tenchi can master it, and only his descendants should be able to master the technique. They both finally wondered who Zhang Xilan really was. Because Regyoku didn't want to give up, Chulan attacked him from a distance with white lightning. Unexpectedly, Regyoku could counter Chulan's attack with a technique that resembled his own but with black lightning. He said that the power he got from Tenchi directly. Finally, Chulan can be defeated by Regyoku and he looks seriously injured. But Hao immediately helped Chulan and was able to stop Regyoku's black key using only her knife. She said if Regyoku attacks again, there will be war between Tenchifu and her organization. Regyoku then retracted his words earlier that Chulan was not worthy to come to Tenchifu. He then invites Chulan in person to attend the event that will be held to choose Tenchi's successor. He also said that Chulan deserved to be Tenchi's successor. The next day, Chulan and Hao Hao were walking somewhere. Chou Soran asked the two of them to go to the house he had rented for them to practice for 1 month in a remote village. Chulan boasts to Hao Hao that last night he was able to match Regihyoku's strength even though he lost in the end. However, she said that last night Regihyoku only used a third of his strength because he only intended to test Chulan's strength. Hao Hao said that although Chulan had no interest in becoming Tenshi's successor, he had to attend an event that Tenshifu would organize to find out the truth about Zhang Xilan. It could be that the Tenshi named Zhang Jine knew the answer. After that, the two of them entered the house. Suddenly, Hao Hao pressed her head against Chulan's head until he felt very sick and fainted. Chulan felt a ki flowing out of his body. Then she splashed him with water until he woke up. It turned out that Hao Hao had passed her strength to Chulan and then she was asked to train. The power given by Hao Hao was very effective in Chulan's body because he could feel his ki flowing in his body. She informed that the technique was called Nao Fukao. The innocent Hao Hao took off all her clothes in front of Chulan to take a shower, without her knowing that what she did was wrong. Because of Hao Hao's actions earlier, Chulan couldn't concentrate while meditating. Hao Hao always hit him when he wasn't focused on practicing. This annoys Chulan and he decides to return to the dormitory and say that their master and servant game is over. Hao Hao threatened Chulan with her knife if he continued to walk away. Still, he seemed to ignore her threat and opened the door to leave. Hao Hao begged him not to go. Even though she had destroyed part of the house, Chulan still left her. As Chulan walked towards the dormitory, Sayin approached him in a car. She said that Tengekai was more sincere in welcoming him. He then wants to come with Sayin to meet her father. It turns out that the Tengekai organization is in a large company called the Tengekai Group. Arriving at Sayin's father's room, the man named Fu Chanhao introduced himself. Chanhao then introduced Chulan to a man named Jia Zhanggu, who was a famous martial artist among foreigners. Chanhao said that Tengekai was looking for talented people and wanted Chulan to join them, so he was given time to think. He said that he also wanted Chulan to date Sayin. On the other hand, Hao Hao looks frustrated because Chulan left her. Not long after, Chou Soran and Zhou Yan came to Hao Hao's place. After that, Chou Soran got the news that Chulan was currently in Tengekai. Zhou Yan suggests that Hao Hao meet Chulan and ask him to come back. But since the two of them had a fight, Hao Hao had to apologize to Chulan. Chou Soran replied that it would be difficult because she never apologized to anyone. To attract Chulan's attention again, they dressed Hao Hao in various styles. After that, Ken Ken comes and asks what is going on. It turns out that they have forgiven Ken Ken, thus releasing her from their prison, but in return, she has to work part-time at their place. Ken Ken immediately dresses Hao Hao, so Chulan is tempted and wants to forgive her. On the other hand, Chulan was talking to Chanhao at his company. Chanhao told him about a stranger's past. He said there was a conflict among foreigners until a war broke out between them. But until now, no one knows what conflict actually happened between them that caused the war, because foreign leaders seem to hide it from all their members. But he has investigated it, and it turns out they are fighting over 8 great powers among foreigners. One of them is Zhang Xilan's power, namely Qi Taigen. It turns out that Chanhao's grandfather, Fu Teniao, also has the summoning power that other foreigners want. Since they are both descended from very powerful strangers, Chanhao wants Chulan to cooperate with him in unraveling the mysteries of the 8 powers. Soon, Hao Hao arrived at the Tengekai group to look for Chulan, but the female receptionist said that Chulan and Chanhao currently had an important discussion. After that, Hao Hao was dragged out by 2 male security men, but she could easily escape and defeated all the security there while continuing to call Chulan's name. Not long after, 3 men arrived, one of whom was Chanhao's son, Shintown, and one woman who worked as an executive at the Tengekai group. Hao Hao instead approached them and asked about Chulan's whereabouts. However, she was attacked by one of the men so that she bounced. Hao Hao then attacked the man back. After that, they ganged up on Hao Hao, but all of them were able to be defeated by her. Elsewhere, Sayin is meeting Chulan and says if he wants to join Tengekai, he can date her. But Chulan refuses even he tries to run away from her. Sayin said she was forced to go on a date with him because her father forced her. Afterward, Sayin attacked Chulan with her strength, but he was able to block her attack using his King Ku. Strangely, he can't touch Sayin's body even she manages to knock him down. It turns out that Sayin has teleportation power, so Chulan can't touch her. Meanwhile, Chanhao was seen sitting with Jia Zhanggu. A man came in and said there was an intruder from Chou Soran's organization. Chanhao ordered the executives to confront them, but his executives had already been defeated by Hao Hao. Meanwhile, Shintown feared facing Hao Hao after seeing her strength while fighting with his 3 comrades earlier. Afterward, Chanhao said to Jia Zhanggu that he would face this problem himself. But Jia Zhanggu, who just joined the Tengekai organization, said he would face them. On the other hand, Sayin was still trying to persuade Chulan to consider Chanhao's request. Still, Chulan just laughed and said he already knew Sayin's true nature, as rude and restless as when they first met. Chulan then invites Sayan to bet. If he can beat her, she must let him go, but if he loses, then he is willing to obey her request. Hao, who was looking for Chulan, accidentally met Jia Zhonggu. Meanwhile, one of the men who lost against Hao said to Shintown that she was so strong that even Hao could lose against her. But Shintown said his father had invited the strong Jia Zhonggu to face her. He immediately attacked her, but she only avoided his attack because, at that time, she was wearing high heels, so she slipped and was attacked by him. Shintown said that Jia Zhonggu's attack could numb his opponent's body. Even though Jia Zhonggu continued to attack Hao, his attacks didn't have much effect on her. Jia Zhonggu said that the woman he fought this time was very strange. He immediately attacked Hao using a sharp weapon that could fly, but she was able to fend off all of his attacks. Shintown said that Jia Zhonggu's power differed from Chou Soran's telekinesis power, which could only make objects float. His power can control objects remotely because he coats each of his weapons with his ki. Jia Zhonggu is called a weapon expert because he can unite weapons with the ki of his body. Afterward, Jia Zhonggu grabbed Hao's head and pointed his gun at her to make her angry. Hao said that Ken forbade her to take off the shoes so that Chulan would return to her. Then the angry Hao immediately took off her shoes and said it was all Jia Zhonggu's fault. On the other hand, Chulan and Sayan are starting to make their bets. None of Sayan's attacks can touch Chulan even though he doesn't use his King Ku. In the end, Chulan finally won the bet. Sayan then asked what technique he used. Chulan said that the technique is called Shiroi Kamushi, which he developed himself from the Raiho technique. She then kept her promise and let him go. Meanwhile, Hao, who had taken off her heels, moved very fast and could attack Jia Zhonggu. After that, Hao came to Jia Zhonggu's place to see their fight. Since Jia Zhonggu didn't want to appear defeated in front of Hao, he continuously attacked Hao. Jia Zhonggu realized the difference in their strength, and he regretted fighting her alone. Hao said she was bored and didn't want to play anymore because she had come to look for Chulan. She begged Jia Zhonggu to end their fight. Jia Zhonggu, who knew that he couldn't beat her, took the opportunity to speak arrogantly in front of Hao. He said he was just about to start seriously fighting, but she asked him to stop, then he would grant it. Jia Zhonggu told Hao to beg him again, and she immediately did it. Jia Zhonggu, who was getting increasingly arrogant, even told Hao to kneel, but she instead pressed his head to kneel at her feet. An angry Jia Zhonggu immediately attacked her from behind, but Hao hit his head again using her heels until it stuck in his head. On the other hand, Chulan, who was told to leave by Sayan, teased her by asking for her phone number. She then hit him through the ground floor. When Chulan fell, he was surprised by the presence of Hao. She then apologized to him while lowering her head. Chulan replied that he would reconsider, and he asked Hao to comply. He asked her not to move for a while because, at the same time, he would face Hao and apologize that he had to go with Hao. Hearing this, Hao became very angry and showed his strength in front of Chulan. Hao wanted to help, but Chulan refused. On the other hand, Chulan felt pressured by Hao's ki power, so he couldn't move. But it turned out that Hao was only testing Chulan's strength, and now he knew it with a laugh. Hao is increasingly attracted to Chulan because he dares to face his strength alone. After that, he allowed Chulan and Hao to leave. But Jia Zhonggu couldn't accept his defeat and said he wouldn't let Hao go. He attacked her again, but she didn't dodge because she obeyed Chulan's order not to move. Afterward, Jia Zhonggu was strangled by Hao. He was disappointed because Jia Zhonggu attacked a woman who had no intention of fighting him, even from behind. Meanwhile, Hao was seen bleeding so badly that she fainted. Hao then summoned Shintown and told him to use his soul summoning power to summon a doctor to immediately heal Hao. Shintown managed to summon the soul of the best male surgeon, and he managed to pull out a sharp weapon from Hao's body. According to him, Hao's wound was very severe. After that, the Tengekai group employee told Hao that Chou Soran and Zhou Yan had come. When they arrived in the room, Hao immediately apologized to them for the incident to Hao. But Chou Soran and Zhou Yan looked calm and asked Shintown to stop treating her. Shintown doesn't want to let Hao go because she could die if the treatment is stopped. Zhou Yan said that whatever happened to Hao was his responsibility. Shintown wanted to stop because he heard Hao's order. They all finally returned to the base, including Chulan. On the way, Chulan still blamed himself for causing Hao to be seriously injured. But Zhou Yan made fun of Chulan to make him angry, and then Chou Soran asked Chulan to calm down because they could disturb Hao, who was resting. Chou Soran asked Chulan to sense Hao's condition by using his ki. Chulan could feel Hao's breath and saw that her bleeding had stopped. Chulan, who feels strange, asks who Hao really is and why she wants to protect him. Chou Soran said they didn't even know the detailed information about Hao's true identity. Even Hao asked Chou Soran in return for information on her past that she couldn't remember at all. On the other hand, it appears Regioku is meeting an old man named Kao to tell him about an event that will be held by Tenshifu. He asked Kao not to tell this to anyone, especially Zensei organization. After Reigyoku left, it turned out that Kao had been used by Natsuka. Kao and his son, Ketsu, even fight for Natsuka. Kao then tells Natsuka that Reigyoku will have a celebration in Tenshifu. Natsuka told Ketsu to take the test for choosing the successor of Tenchi, but he replied that many martial arts experts would come. After that, a Zensei male member named Kinshu came and said he would give strength to Ketsu. Shortly after, they met Ryu, who had managed to retrieve the memories from Zhang Shilan's corpse. One of Zensei's male members, Sumon, also saw the memory and said that the information was interesting but not very useful. Ryu whispered something to Sumon, which made him say that the memory contents were more interesting than the key Taigen they were looking for. Ryu says he has a plan that could make Joseon's organization panic. On the other hand, Chulan had stayed with Hao Hao for a few days, but she hadn't woken up yet. Joseon and Joyeon came, and Joyeon told Chulan to return to his campus. The two of them would be waiting for Hao Hao, who would soon wake up. When Chulan is gone, Joseon asks Joyeon how much longer Hao Hao will wake up and how much longer they will have to keep her past secret from Chulan. Soon, Hao Hao woke up but didn't look like someone who had been seriously injured. Meanwhile, Chulan walked towards his campus while thinking many questions in his head. Without him knowing, Ryu was walking after him. Not long after Chulan realized he was being followed, he appeared behind Ryu. Ryu panicked and said he was alone and didn't mean to attack him. He tells Chulan that he is a foreigner born with inherited powers. Ryu showed his power that could absorb and control other people's ki. He also showed Chulan Zhang Shilan's last memory to see what Zhang Shilan had last seen. After Ryu gave the memory to Chulan, he immediately said goodbye. Chulan, who was curious, finally saw the memory and saw that Hao Hao was there. This means that before Zhang Shilan died, Hao Hao was in front of him. After that, he immediately ran back to the house Joseon had rented, saying that Joseon and Joyeon had been deceiving him all this time. When he got there, Chulan couldn't find them all. It turned out that Zhang Shilan's memory before he died 12 years ago showed that he saw Hao Hao, whose her appearance had not changed until now. Joseon then calls Chulan to the hospital to meet their father, Jo Sho, who has been in a coma for a long time. But he had woken up and said that he wanted to meet Chulan. Chulan said that he didn't know their father, and he asked if Hao Hao was the one who killed Zhang Shilan 12 years ago. Hao Hao admitted that she had killed Zhang Shilan, and Chulan immediately became emotional. But Jo Sho wakes up and asks Chulan to listen to his story about himself and someone named Amu, who turns out to be Hao Hao's real name. He said that he first met Amu in 1944. At that time, Jo Sho's father and mother helped Hao Hao, who was being bullied by two men, and took her home. In that house, Hao Hao met Jo Sho, who was 9 years old. However, Hao Hao, who was spoken to, was silent, causing them all to be confused. Afterward, Jo Sho's father went to the city to look for Hao Hao's family, but he did not find any information. Since then, Hao Hao has been living with Jo Sho's family. Hao Hao, who never wanted to talk to other people, was given the name Amu by the villagers. Jo Sho's family taught Amu many things, including how to talk. Jo Sho's mother once asked Amu if she had remembered about her past, but when she tried to remember, her head looked in pain. Then Jo Sho brought a male doctor to treat Amu, but it turned out that she could heal herself using ki. That was the first time Jo Sho saw ki. It turned out that the doctor knew about ki and told Jo Sho's family not to tell other people about it. At night, Jo Sho asked Amu about ki. He immediately practiced ki to her until his body could feel the power of his first ki. 5 years later, since they first found Amu, Jo Sho's family said they must soon find her family. Jo Sho said just think of Amu as their family member. One day, the robbers came and looted the villagers' property. After that, Amu came and didn't know what was going on. The robbers tried to take her, but Jo Sho's father intended to protect her until he was killed by one of the robbers. Jo Sho, who saw this, felt very angry trying to attack the robber, but he was injured instead. The innocent Amu immediately ran to Jo Sho's mother, who was crying over the death of her husband. Amu said her chest hurt when she saw Jo Sho's mother crying. She asks what she should do to make Jo Sho's mother happy again. A very angry Jo Sho's mother said that the only thing that could make her happy was if Amu could kill all those robbers. Hearing this, Amu immediately slaughtered all the robbers in front of everyone. Jo Sho, who woke up, saw the terrible incident. The residents who witnessed this were also afraid of Amu and called her a monster and even drove her out of the village. After that, Jo Sho and his mother followed Amu. Jo Sho's mother asked Amu to wait for them on a mountain, and they would meet her soon. It turns out that Jo Sho's mother lied because she was afraid of the incident. She brought Jo Sho to his grandmother's house. Since then, Jo Sho never saw Amu again. Until 1993, 58-year-old Jo Sho was asked by a friend to set up a company that deals with foreigners. At first, Jo Sho refused, but his friend gave him a photo showing Amu being arrested by the police. The woman said she was looking for someone, so she escaped custody. After that, Chou agreed to set up the company on the condition that he asked for all access to information, including about the government. Thanks to the help of his friends, Chou was finally able to meet with Amu again. Since then, Amu has become a member of the package delivery company. One day, Chou gets a call and asks Amu to go with him because there is information about her past. According to the person who called Chou, at that time, all the important foreign figures were having a meeting, and maybe one of them knew about Amu's past. But when they arrived at the meeting place, there had been a massacre and many foreigners had died. All of the people who died on the spot were foreigners of great power and the organization's leaders. They wondered who could kill such a powerful group of strangers at once. They also saw the fight, and there was one strong person died. It turned out that the winner of the battle was Chulan. He said that he and all the foreigners left behind by the war era must die for the younger generations. After that, Chou and Amu came to Chulan, who was very badly injured. It turns out that Chulan knows Amu, whose real name is Fu Hao. Amu immediately asked Chulan about her past, but he couldn't tell her and only gave way for her to know the answer herself. Hao had to stay with his grandson, Chulan, and protect him. Chulan said if Hao stayed near Chulan, then she would find the answer. He said that the old foreigner wars were caused by Hao and her past was also related to that war. He also reminded Hao to continue being by Chulan's side to learn about her past. Since Chulan was so badly injured then, he asked Hao to kill him now. It turned out that the power that Hao transferred yesterday to Chulan was a deposit from Chulan so that he would gain more power. Finally, Hao was willing to kill Chulan because she couldn't bear to see him hurt and in pain. So in Chulan's memory, the last thing he saw was Hao. After that, they went to Chulan's school when he was still a child. It turned out that since Chulan was a child, Hao had taken care of him without him knowing. Hao pretended not to know Chulan when they first met at the tomb the other day to keep her promise to Chulan. After meeting Chulan, Chou then looked for information about him. According to information obtained in 1994, a man from the Tengekai organization reportedly fled from his group. Chou believed that the man was Chulan. Chou asks Chulan to join the tournament that will be held by Tengekai to find the truth through Tenchi directly. After that, he breathed his last. At Chou's funeral, Chulan was not present because he still locked himself in his room to think. Shortly after, Chulan appears at Chou's funeral, tells them he decided to enter the Tengekai tournament and asks how to train him again. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that even if someone has blood descendants from great people or even bad people, it doesn't mean that their descendants will be similar to them.